Picture this. You've time-traveled back to the 16th century into the heart of Tudor England. Bustling markets, grand castles, and the allure of the Renaissance. Sounds appealing? But could you really survive this time? The first obstacle to your survival would be hygiene. Without the conveniences of modern civilization, no running water, no toothpaste or deodorant, the stench would be unbearable. Not to mention, public baths were considered places of ill repute. Next, consider the medical practices of the time. Bleeding was a common treatment for various ailments. Imagine being unwell and having the doctor drain your blood or apply leeches as a remedy. Convinced yet that survival here would be a challenge? Think about your diet. The food in Tudor England was nothing like the balanced meals we're accustomed to. You'd primarily live on bread and beer with occasional meat, but rarely any vegetables or fruits. Nutrient deficiency and diseases would loom large. And the beer? Well, it wasn't quite the refreshing drink we know today. Water wasn't safe to drink, so beer was the staple beverage. Imagine starting your day off with beer, even for children, and dealing with the effects throughout the day. Speaking of children, childhood mortality rates were staggeringly high. Around 1 in 3 children didn't live past their 15th birthday. If you were to survive your childhood, making it to adulthood would be a monumental achievement. Furthermore, the education system was not as inclusive as it is today. If you were a woman or belonged to the lower strata of society, the chances of being literally kept out of classrooms were high. Ignorance was a common, unavoidable predicament. Let's talk about your freedom of speech. You would be subject to the religious and political views of the reigning monarch. Expressing discord could lead to being branded a heretic or a traitor, resulting in severe punishment or even execution. Now imagine the living conditions. Overcrowded, small houses with poor ventilation and lighting, damp conditions conducive to the spread of diseases. You'd need a strong stomach and a sturdier constitution to survive in such an environment. Also, the odds of surviving any form of battle were slim. If the Tudor Wars or the countless rebellions didn't end you, the chances are that the brutal hand-to-hand combat would. Survival was a constant test of strength and resilience. Consider the rampant diseases of the time. The plague, sweat, or typhoid could wipe out entire villages. The lack of understanding of disease transmission and sanitation compounded the risk of falling prey to these deadly illnesses. How about recreation? Hunting was a popular pastime, but not as we know it. It was a dangerous, brutal activity that often resulted in injuries, sometimes fatal. The leisure activities were as perilous as everyday life. Even the employment opportunities were hazardous. Many jobs involved hard, physical labor with long hours and no safety regulations. As a blacksmith, farmer, or miner, you'd be exposed to high risks, with injuries being commonplace. Lastly, the legal system of Tudor England was ruthless. The punishments for crimes, however petty, were severe and often fatal. Public executions were a regular spectacle. Laws were strict, and the justice system was unforgiving. So could you really survive life in Tudor England? With its harsh realities and daily challenges, it's highly unlikely. But this tumultuous period did pave the way for many advancements that we now take for granted.